We're back. Welcome back, Pathless Peddlers. It's how do we usually start this? Okay, I remember. I remember. Hey there, everybody. It's Russ from Pathless Peddled.
I am Toffer from Pedal Missoula.
And welcome to another episode of Bikes and Bourbon. It's been a while, but we've got a special episode. It's going to be a end of the year recap.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got a special bourbon, or not, whiskey that we're tasting. Mm-hmm. And it's actually a gift whiskey.
It is from, we have a...
It's kind of like a dual gifters.
Yeah, it's the king of the bourbons are Spencer Harding and Duncan from Transit Cycles in Tucson.
So that makes Spencer and Duncan from Transit
King of the Bourbons!
Oh, I missed that animation. So before we jump into bikes, I'll talk a little bit about this whiskey. It's a single malt Delback Dorado, and it's mesquite smoke. And as you can see, it's been enjoyed. It's been enjoyed. I'll say if you're a Scotch person, you will totally like this, and it's really, really good.
I thought that today you have two kind of big review things up on the channel.
Yeah.
Recently, you've summarized all of the bike suppleness that you've been doing, like all kind of spring and summer and fall.
And a spreadsheet.
There's a spreadsheet involved. There were some comments on those videos. I thought maybe you're pretty good about going in and responding to people, but I thought maybe we could get a little bit more
personal response,
a little bit more explanation. This first kind of set here comes from the Supple Award video. So, nice fun take on the Supple Award thing.
Just awards it's award season.
It's award, yeah. So David Bond wrote you to say, yes, once you've tried some of the high-end custom bikes out there, you have a hard time going back. I tried a roll-off equipped co-motion bike a couple years ago, and after about 45 minutes, my reaction was like, whoa, I've got to get one of these.
Yeah.
So what do we make of... So, spoiler alert, the most supple bike of the year was...
Well, this is a breadwinner G-Road.
Yeah. And so that was on the higher... I mean, it's not a production kind of... it is a kind of a production bike for them.
Right.
But they are... them is breadwinner, a few frame builders working together.
Yeah.
Ira and Tony, mainly. And so they kind of have a production. I think they have kind of like a base idea of like, you know what you're getting with the G-Road.
Right.
But it's not like a Surly or a Kona where it's like being produced in like mass quantities and bike dealers have them for you to ride.
Yeah.
So how do you feel? I mean, like, where do you come down on that kind of being something that like is there really something to custom being just like if you ride a custom bike you won't be able to go back to your Surly or?
In some ways, yes. So first off, like when I was trying to pick the supplest bike of the year award, I really didn't want it to be the breadwinner. Like I tried my hardest to like rationalize myself outside of like from not giving it to the most expensive bike.
Yeah.
But I think having a chance to ride that and some nicer steel bikes, the biggest difference is kind of the tubing. Like when you get a Surly, a Kona, whatever, like any mass-produced like steel bike, by default they're using like a beefier tubing and they're assuming like the lowest common denominator of use. So someone that's going to put a ton of stuff on it, someone that's going to abuse the heck out of it. So they kind of have to like overbuild the bike for kind of cover your ass purposes.
Right.
Whereas like you get a custom bike, you tell them exactly what your uses are. They figure out what you weigh, what like how much you're gonna put on the bike, and they're gonna tune the tubing so it's gonna do that task and not be overbuilt for more.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So I thought that was I mean I have and you have like your Belinky was kind of custom made for you. And I have a couple of custom-made bikes, and I definitely can like feel like obviously there's that special quality to them, but I don't think it like has completely ruined like I've like especially in the winter I have a Surly Wednesday fat bike, and I don't like feel like like, oh, this, like, I don't know. There's sometimes I'm just like, bikes are bikes. Yeah, you can, I mean, once you become aware of some of the nuances between them.
Yeah.
But I don't think that.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I don't think people should, like, be bummed out or. And then the other thing, well, we'll get to this maybe. Yeah. I think there's a question about.
I think for most, like, a production bike is perfectly fine. There's lots of great production bikes, like the Kona Rogue NRBDL, like, was actually super stoked on.
Yeah.
Midnight Special, and it's only like after having like sampling like the potential of what these bikes could do that you kind of like in retrospect go, well, but like for the most part, they're great bikes.
So. I love like the idea that this spreadsheet that you made is like it is. I know that you put a lot of work into it, and but so since you've already built a Supple scoring tool, this is from Jordan E. I would love to see you add a price column and divide the Supple score by price to indicate the best value. Mm-hmm. So this is what I was getting ready to say something along these lines about, because the breadwinner is a custom bike. But yeah, so this would help folks find the best ride in their budget ranges. I believe you when you say the G Road is most supple. However, at 5K, it would need to be 5 times better than a journeyman or journey person to hold the bang for buck ratio.
Yeah, and
so
I responded to Jordan and I said that price is a reasonable like column to add now that I know how to use the spreadsheets. But in terms of like using that as a value, like I feel like that's too subjective because like people value different things, people's budgets are different things.
Right.
Like for example, like some people are looking for frame, but really value like good components for the price.
Yeah.
Whereas like I'm kind of more after like a more interesting ride, and I'll deal with like kind of okay components because I know I can upgrade them in the future. So I'll pay kind of that interesting geometry tax, but that might not be the priority for other people.
Right.
So,
and then it also struck me that like that $5,000 is a lot of money for a bicycle. Like I'm not gonna deny that. But there's more expensive.
Yes.
I mean, like you can routinely find double the price. For custom bikes.
Right. Or even stock. Some production bikes cost that much.
Yeah, and people don't like. They're like, yeah, that's just what these bikes cost. And so, I think once again, it's even hard because I think that for a lot, like if you're watching this and you are just a consumer who buys one bike every 10 to 15, 20 years, outlaying a lot of money, you're like, I want this bike to be, but also it's like, I don't know if I want to just like put a bunch of money at one time into a bike.
Right.
But if you're like a bike shop employee trying to talk to people about how much bikes cost, people can be like, you want me to pay $1,500 for that? Like, that's a lot of money. And so it's like, like people can, it's hard to like try to gauge. And to me, I think a breadwinner fits nicely. I mean, if you think about like stragglers, being like in the 1,600 range, I think.
Yeah. So Midnight Special, like just under 2,000.
Yeah.
Right. So for more than double that, you get a little bit lighter frame, a little bit more sophisticated tubing.
Yeah.
Just as much utility. You get to pick the color. You get size it to your exact proportions.
If things like Made in America are important to you, you get to you're supporting kind of a local industry. You're supporting like the local economy of Portland. So it's kind of an interesting, just like, I don't know if with bikes it's as simple as just like, this bike is a lot cheaper and you can therefore say that you're getting like more out of it. I don't, because I feel like, and then there's also bikes where I don't know.
I also think it's I can totally relate to being only able to afford like a $500 bike. So when I first started getting into bikes, it's like my perception of their relative value was
right.
It's like, what do you mean $1,000 for this bike?
Right. Because like that's what.
Yeah, well, if you need the bike just as a tool to do a certain thing, and doesn't have to tickle your aesthetics or senses in a particular way, then go for like the budget bike you can afford. But if you grow to love bikes and appreciate the nuance and kind of the eccentricness of different things that you can do to your bike, then I guess your threshold for what an affordable bike is like slowly goes up.
Yep. So one of the things I noticed when I was watching it is because I see you fairly frequently, and I see you on the Velo Orange.
Velo Orange.
So I know that that's a bike that you really enjoyed, but then it wasn't.
Right.
And then and Clunker714 said something similar. He said, "I thought you liked the Velo Orange." No,
it's all lies.
And so, but then and once again, if you're if you don't like ever read the comments on YouTube, you're probably a really smart person. But I think sometimes like the Pathos Pedal community is pretty good about having constructive things to say.
Right.
And I think this is one of them, like kind of bringing up why no Velo Orange.
Right.
In this year in review, and you said it's a good all-rounder. It's a practical purchase, but it's not necessarily doesn't embody all the things that a supple bike can.
Right.
And so that there's a difference sometimes between what is this like perfectly supple bike versus a bike you'd want to ride.
Yeah. So in that list, I was searching for like my platonic ideal of like what the supple bike would be, and like the Breadwinner hits it most. Clearly I did not buy the Breadwinner. So you can have ideals, and then there are things that you purchase and you use in reality. Just like cameras, some people like lust after like a Leica or Hasselblad, but we're shooting this with a Lumix.
Yeah.
So
and it gets the job done.
And it gets nice. So it doesn't mean I don't like the Velo Orange any less. I mean, clearly I do. I ride it a lot, but just in the entire spectrum of like the par excellence. The Breadwinner was more supple.
So, just to take a slight break here with
the Grammar Police.
The Grammar Police. It's not an episode of bikesxbourbon if we don't get to talk about our ability to pronounce things or our word choice. And Jeremy Poe mentioned, "Come on, English major. It's not first annual, it's inaugural." I think he was kind of, there's a smiley face thing here. So he's kind of ribbing you, and then because Jeremy only uses commas for punctuation, he does not have a apostrophe in his "it's" there. So Brian Feltovich says, "Come on, Jeremy, it's with the correct spelling." So it is not first hand. So, make sure we're being grammatically correct here. People, it's invading the comment section.
So I was an English major, not a very good one sometimes.
Like to read the books, not always best at using the words.
I'm better in like the big picture conceptual idea communication rather than the punctuation apparently.
Yeah. So one of the Tan 240SX wrote a very interesting idea here. Would be very interested in seeing if you could do a video on building up a bike that could contend with the Breadwinner and still be affordable for most people. Which is like an interesting idea of like what frame, like a frame set that you could choose that is a production frame set so that people could go into their local bike shop and buy this frame set, and then how would you build it up with the components?
Yeah, so like when I was doing the review video, I was thinking about if you could do that.
Yeah. And
the closest I came up with would be if you got Midnight Special frame, got rid of the ugly fork, and put on like the hunter-gatherer fork. Because then you'd have the quick rear end, actually quicker than the Breadwinner, and like a functional like load trail fork that you can put in lowrider mounts and a rando rack, or something like the Radiolabs Spork, which is kind of like their utility fork. So you could, but I mean, okay, so you'd be, I don't know, what does the frame set cost? Like $1,000 or something? And then
I don't know what the Midnight Special is.
Yeah, but so like Midnight Special complete, $2,000 or just under $2,000, and then the hunter-gatherer fork, $500, so $2,500. So that, or you could just buy the Breadwinner frame. So like you could like, it's more affordable, but like you still can't ride it out.
Yeah, it's hard because also like unless you're a bike mechanic yourself,
right?
Like I can buy like parts to be as inexpensive as possible. I would still have to pay somebody to like. I mean, there's like I can do some things on my bike, but like I would not want to have like bike parts,
right?
Bike frame, and then try to marry the two.
Yeah, you'd have to get
I would want to have a
like a
professional
headset tool, a bottom bracket tool, all sorts of things.
So there's different things that can make it more expensive from that whole like. But if you're capable, I think that there could be some fun builds.
Yeah.
Let's bookmark this idea because we're gonna. You're gonna learn at the end of this episode what Russ's prediction for 2019.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the next big trends of 2019.
Stay tuned. All right, just a couple more comments I want to get your opinion on here. This is so switching gears here to the spreadsheet video. This is awesome. Which was like, I think it was really great just to see the enthusiasm. Like, there's a lot of
spreadsheets.
Yeah, like it was kind of awesome to see like all the bike nerds being like, yeah, spreadsheet. Like, yeah. This is awesome. Hope you can do the Checkpoint and Topstone. Are they both Treks?
Checkpoint is Trek, Topstone is Cannondale.
Because so many brands are hard to get if one wants to buy local and does not live in a super great biking market.
Right.
I thought that was a great point about what I find the value of your reviews to be, which is that, the bike market is often, you have these bike shops that have their brands that they carry.
Right.
And then anyways, like a lot of brands aren't even like Breadwinner, you can't find them. So you rely on the internet to like inform you about how they ride. But yeah, I thought that was such a great thing about the spreadsheet was that there's so often, it's not like you can just go into your bike shop and find
so
bikes. So
like he asked specifically about the Cannondale and Trek.
Yeah.
And what's interesting in doing all these review bikes is that it's actually harder to get hold of demo bikes from larger brands, just because there's this whole like bureaucracy of who is the the right PR person, whereas as like a Breadwinner, it just I had just contacted Tony. So in some ways, it's easier to review bikes from smaller makers, more difficult from larger brands. But what I find also interesting is like, if you look on YouTube, there's like very few reviews of the Cannondale Slate. I think there were like 0. And up until like we posted the Kona Rove video, no reviews on the Kona Rove. So like which I'm still trying to unpack. Like, does that mean they only give to the press with the expectations of purely positive reviews, or is their demo fleet really that limited, or do they really try to control the message? So it's interesting as someone that's, I've only been reviewing bikes like this for a year, like navigating that. But like, I do find it strange. Like, okay, so there's like there are videos of like the, Cannondale Slate release event where they fly in the press and they all ride the Slate, but no like, actual like review, I think.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I find, QBP has, I think, done a pretty good job about being open and talking to you about different Surly bikes that are available or Salsa. And so, yeah, it's interesting that, and I guess not like super interesting. I guess it's just that, there's like a bureaucracy there. There's just like channels that are having to be worked through, and they, as like a bigger brand, have already set aside maybe, okay, we have these bikes to demo.
This goes to bicycling. This goes to Peloton.
Soon, Pathless Pedal will be on their schedule.
Yes.
They'll have to reckon with.
They're going to fly me to Mallorca for their release.
That'll be from December to April.
Right.
And then, so this is once again a comment. I'm not sure, Hajime Kuma? I'm not sure how to pronounce. Hajime
Kuma.
Please do it. So this is the spreadsheet. Please do a similar for tires. Can't believe how much I struggle choosing new rubber.
Tires.
Yeah. Spent my hard earnings on Conti Speed King CX in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that there are lots of different like tires, handlebars, some of these things that like feel saddles, they feel interchangeable, but it's like hard to know how they compare, or like what I liked, what made, like, kind of like with bourbon and whiskey, it made me think how you broke it down, like how you can have like your flavor profile that you're looking for. And when you did that with bikes, it kind of helped me think about, for people, how they could think about bikes and how it breaks down, and how there needs to be similar, like, because you try to go on numbers, but you're like, well, what's 650 by 47? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, tires.
So it seems like tires, handlebars.
Tires has been requested a lot. You know, the magical thing about spreadsheets, I can add another sheet. It could be sheet number 2 just on tires. So you can cross-reference bikes and tires. And speaking of tires.
Whoa. There's just a box. There's a box full of tires.
So unfortunately we have a winter here in Missoula. Otherwise there would be more tire reviews because literally I have a box of tires to review. WTB Sendero. A bunch of tires from Simworks.
Oh yeah.
This is their Volumi. Specialized came out with a new 650B all-rounder tire called the Pathfinder Pro. So tire reviews in the future. Laura and I are actually going to be heading to California late January, early February, and I'm mailing a box of tires ahead of time to review them.
Nice. Awesome.
So yeah, look for those. So I think that's all the comments.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about future trends.
Well, hold on. Because one of the things that was a comment, people, more Laura in videos. I second that. Whenever I see Laura, I feel like one of the first questions I ask her is like, are you wearing any of this for review? Are we gonna get a Laura video soon?
Right.
So
yeah. Unfortunately, by the time Laura gets home, it's dark because winter.
Right.
And she's usually tired. But there is more content on the way with her.
With Laura, awesome.
Yeah. So 2018, pretty interesting year. I think the year where 650B made a big splash.
Yeah. Definitely broke through.
Yeah, we started 2019. My hot take on 2019 is in terms of gravel, we're gonna see a bigger divide between gravel as sport, as racing, and gravel as adventure. The gravel bike's gonna be more specialized. A couple years ago, Salsa released the Warbird, which was the first gravel racing bike, and people laughed. And now, now there's aero gravel bikes. So I think we're gonna see this continued stratification of the gravel bike segment, which will be interesting. I hope gravel bikes or multi-purpose adventure gravel bikes don't fall by the wayside and everyone gets all sporty.
Right.
But that's there's that.
And when it gets more sporty, it means there's less places to mount things.
Yeah, all of a sudden no mounts. It's then it becomes just such a specific tool for one task.
Yeah, and they're building it for maybe 100, 200 mile endurance events rather than people who might want to do that, but they also might want to go on a tour off-road, or they might want to just have a really chill bike to enjoy exploring around their home, or if they go on vacation someplace. So yeah.
So another big trend that I see in 2019 is we're going to see more bikes ship with OEM subcompact gearing. Kind of controversial, lots of people freak out.
What are you talking about? Don't change my gearing.
But we're seeing it already. There's limited options, but Shimano does have a gravel group set. Right now, their only component is a derailleur, Ultegra derailleur with a clutch.
You gotta start somewhere,
right? But I think down the line we're gonna see hopefully a Shimano and SRAM subcompact in the future. At least that's what I hope.
Yeah.
But I think the trend I'm most interested in 2019, which is related. I mean, I think we're gonna see more supple bikes in that genre of a true quiver killer, but also the Utilifork, or what I'm calling the Utilifork. So brands like Endpoint, they have their hunter-gatherer fork. You see Rodeo Labs, they've got their Spork, which is a carbon fork, but it's got 3-pack mounts, lowrider mounts, all the good stuff. I think we're gonna see that incorporated more into just mass production bikes.
It's a little I understand why bike companies wouldn't want to overproduce forks that don't come with frames, because then you have potentially the potential for there being extra forks sitting there. How many do you order of just single forks? But the idea of there being forks that could fit on different bikes and that could it would require you to be a little bit on the nerdier end of wanting to alter your bike and put on a fork that's not. Yeah. But it feels like that's something that could happen, and for lots of different reasons. I mean, there's like forks that don't have enough clearance, and so you could get a fork that has more clearance so you could fit the type of tires you want in there.
Right.
Or like you were saying, it doesn't have the mounts that you want. So the whole like fork being an interchangeable, like I think for mountain bikes, that's common. Like you put a different fork on, you can upgrade your suspension fork. And we think of like mountain bikes as almost coming sometimes like without a fork. Like we just think of them as like a frame.
Right.
And I wonder if that would ever, because of gravel, catch on in like the like road bike world where you could have a fork could help you change out the feel of your bike.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think so. I mean, I think the fork can alter like vastly like the utility of the bike, because most carbon forks up until recently, no fender mounts, no rack mounts. Now we're seeing that become more commonplace. So if you've got a bike that's got a carbon fork and you want a carbon fork but need to carry stuff, there's going to be those options. It can also change the geometry. So forks specifically with like low trail that are better designed to carry front load, so you can switch things up on your bike. I mean, I don't see like why that wouldn't be so far of a stretch. I mean, the biggest challenge, like you said, is going to be making a fork that works on most bikes. Instead of, because there's like tapered head tubes.
So many standards.
There's non-tapered head tubes. There's so I don't know. But honestly, that's the bike industry's own damn fault for making too many standards.
Like if you have a steel frame and you want to add a different type of steel fork, like that could be an interesting pairing to see. Like, I mean, especially I thought it was really smart that InPoint sent you the coffee grinder frame with the hunter-gatherer fork, because I feel like that really like stepped it up in what you were looking for. And so it's like, oh, that's an interesting idea that you could make a bike. You mean like the Midnight Special? Be a little bit, like, oh, I have more mounts and this fork does better stuff for me.
Yeah. You know a funny story about that bike? It was actually a customer's bike who follows us on Instagram. So like after he posted the review, he was like, I'm stoked you like my bike. But like whoever, like I've not met this person in person, but we have like very similar tastes, because the way it was kitted, it had like I think it was a 4028. It would have been like the bike I would have built from scratch. So we're definitely finding our people.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I think the idea of the Supple bike, a bike that is fun, responsive, but is also has a lot of utility. We're gonna see more brands do that in 2019. Just because the bike can carry stuff doesn't mean it has to be like slow.
Right.
And likewise, just because the bike is fun and zippy doesn't mean that it can't carry things. I think 650B adoption, like the smaller brands will still do it. It seems like Kona is all in. Clearly Surly, Salsa, like from...
It'd be interesting though, like to see like brands like Salsa, where it seems like the 650 version of the Warbird was not designed around. So it'll be interesting to see like how, like if some of those brands like really commit to it, or
I think they will. I feel like Surly in the QBP family is kind of like the laboratory. They'll try something weird, see if it sticks, and then they'll move it upscale.
Sure.
Like maybe we'll see like a all city like 650B road bike or something.
Because it seems like the Midnight Special has been successful for them.
I think
it seems like it's gotten a lot of buzz and a lot of people are really pumped on it. I think like maybe Trek and Giant and Specialized are still in like the wait and see. Like they'll tout like, oh, it's 650B compatible, but they're not going to commit to like a bike. Redesigning a bike around it.
I do think it's important, like having tested the Warbird and 650B. I mean, it works. It's a good bike,
right?
But I do feel like if they built it around that, because it's got front. I rode with front lowriders and I felt it was a little low. But if it was built specifically around 650B, all the mounts would be up a little bit, slightly higher bottom bracket, so it'd still be livelier. So maybe 2019, we'll see some dedicated 650B bikes, more bikes in the Supple category, and the Utilifork.
Utilifork.
New hashtag.
You no longer have to mount weird clamps to the fork
to
carry stuff. You can just
you
your fork will already come with like a million silver
Right, just nipples all over the place.
all over the place, waiting for you to attach things.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's wrap up with the Delback Dorado.
Oh, it was so good.
It's so good.
Yeah, definitely like a super easy sipper. Just for hanging out.
I mean, I like that it's rich and there is like a smokiness to it, but it's not like a super like peaty Scotch smoke.
That's right.
It's really it's rounded. I mean, it's like it's still there's lots of sweetness, some light notes, but like just like a hint of smoke.
Yeah, I really do like the balance of the sweet and the smoke. It does a really good job of balancing those out.
Yeah. So if you guys can get this, we can't get it here in Missoula, unfortunately. It's worth the buy. So thank you, Spencer and Duncan.
Thank you.
And I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
So until next time,
Keep the supple side down.
cheers.